Hey guys, listen up. Starting your own business and need a little help? Well, you're in luck. Your host, Jamie Lee, right here on So You Want to Start a Business, has tips and strategies every Wednesday at 9 a.m. to help make your business dreams a success. So, get out your pen and paper, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get down to business on So You Want to Start a Business.
And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of So You Want to Start a Business. Today is our deep dive sessions, teaching Wednesdays, and we're back with Philip Portman. So if you did not watch his interview that we did on Saturday and released, you missed out on a lot. Make sure that you check that out. I'll link put on the link and everything for that video. With that today, Philip will be doing some deep dive and considering the information that we got on the other one. Definitely looking forward to that. So, Philip, with that, you can go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. So I have a podcast called Success Is Podcast, and today I want to talk to you about success, and we're going to dive into it a little bit. So early on in my life, I was one of 7 children raised by a single mother, and we were poor. Broke poor. And you can ask anyone in my family. Early on I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a millionaire and marry Cindy Crawford. That's what I told everyone. I don't know if it wasn't exactly Cindy Crawford, but my wife is beautiful, and I did end up becoming a millionaire. And for someone like me to say that in the environment that I was raised in was laughable at the time. I was not doing well in school. I was one of 7 kids, so no chance my single mother is going to pay for a good education for me. And the way that my family looked at money and treated money, I was definitely not trained for success. So as I got older, I had a financial success in various industries. And I got the chance to look back and say, why did this happen? How was I successful at these different things? Whereas people that I saw that were far more knowledgeable than I was, far more educated than I was, struggled in their life. And through all of the interviews I've done, I've kind of distilled what I call my 3 keys to success. And I'm going to share with them today. The first one is having a plan, setting your goals, and not just setting goals, but writing them down physically on paper. And you're going to say, well, Phil, we live in a digital age, right? Why do I need to physically write things down in paper? That's crazy. There's something that happens when you commit something to paper. And the way I did it, my wife and I, in our 20s, we sat down together and wrote down 100 goals that we wanted to achieve in life. We then took these goals and broke them down into different categories. Categories like artistic goals, family goals, financial goals, career goals. We broke them down into different goals and then said, if we're starting 15 years out and working backwards, how can we get to that 15-year goal? And we started planning that out. So the interesting thing is, if you looked at a goal right now and said, can I achieve this tomorrow? I don't know. Can I achieve this in a month? Once again, that'd be a little tough. A year? 5 years? Or if I tell you 15 years, you have 15 years to achieve this goal, well, now it becomes more realistic. You can work backwards, right? And if your goal is to be a doctor in 15 years, that's completely possible. Doctor, lawyer, whatever you want to do, you can set a 15-year goal. Well, now it's just a matter of slowly working backwards and setting that goal. So the first thing is set down written goals. Where do you want to be in 15 years? Make sure your goals are well balanced. You're including health goals, financial goals, family goals, a whole broad route of goals, not just the career financial goals. You want to have a good mix of them. And then work backwards to today and write out what your goals are. I would encourage you to do this with your spouse or significant other, because they're going to be along with you on this journey, and you want to make sure you're supporting them as well. One of the things my wife wanted to do was write a book, and she is a fantasy fiction author, does an amazing job at it, absolutely loves it, and I was able to help support her in that journey to become a fantasy fiction author. And I would say out of all the things I've done, just supporting her and her goal to become that was one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of, and I'm really happy with what she did. So the first thing, set clearly defined goals. The second thing is develop healthy habits. So my son came to me one day and said, "Dad, I have a terrible memory. I can't remember anything." And I said, "What do you mean you have a terrible memory? You can't do anything?" And he said, "I don't know, at school I can't do anything." So I said, we're gonna go shopping off of your memory. We're gonna go shopping the grocery list. Well, we live out in the middle of the country, and so there was like 75 items on our grocery list. So we went out, and I taught him a technique called a memory palace. And we went up the driveway, and he's dripping this giant jar of pickles and all that stuff. You could smell the pickles, and we looked at the garage, and it was frozen waffles, and we went up the driveway and all that stuff, and weeding through hair and all that stuff, and we grabbed a doorknob, and it was a tomato and all that. We went shopping off of this. He's probably 8 years old, 8-year-old's memory, and we got every single item on the list. Why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because you're going to go into this habit exercise thinking, I've done this before. I've tried this. I've tried exercising. I've tried working out. I've tried reading books. It doesn't work for me. And like Henry Ford said, if you think you can or can't, you're right. But there's always a strategy to doing it. And if you understand that the habits maketh the man, right? Your habits define who you are. And you're either developing healthy habits or you're victim to the habits that control you. What do I mean by that? Well, one habit is this phone right here, right? You'll notice on mine that it never rings, it never notifies me of anything. That is intentional. All of my notifications are turned off on my phone. Do not make me your emergency contact. You will never get a hold of me, right? But I turn off my notifications because these things are trained, or they're designed for that. What's that? The dog, a Pavlov's dog or whatever, right? You start salivating every time you hear the bell ring. Yeah. Every time this thing vibrates or pings, you're looking at that. Well, that's creating a habit. And if you look back, you're constantly checking notifications, checking comments, checking messages. That is developing a habit. It's creating a habit. So creating healthy habits is not only creating the healthy habits, but getting rid of or controlling the ones that have the potential to become negative habits. So if you're going to create positive habits in your life, there's two that I talk about that are most important. One is reading every day, even if it's 10 minutes. And the second one is doing some sort of physical exercise. There's a great book on creating habits, and that's called Atomic Habits. If you haven't read it, I'd really encourage you to. But the answers are out there. But the first is to have the belief that, yeah, maybe you've tried it before and it didn't work, but there is a better way of doing it. Me, I tried working out early on, and I would constantly struggle. I'd say, you know what, I'm going to try to get into shape. I'd go to the gym, I'd work out for 2 weeks, and I'd burn myself out and get sick, and then I'd stop working out. What's wrong with that situation? Well, it's a terrible way to build a new habit. You go into something hating it, you're going to stop doing it. What did I start doing instead? Well, I start going for a walk. I'd start putting on those shoes every day, just putting on those shoes, developing those habits. And then over time, I'd add a little something to it, just under the point where it became uncomfortable. And then I'd start adding something else to it and kept adding to it. Then I started telling people, hey, I work out. I started identifying as that person that worked out, right? And over time, it became who I am. And now I'm somebody who regularly works out. But it started at that original point. And the bigger part of this is that the strategy that I was using for becoming a healthy person didn't work. So I looked for a new one to build that healthy habit in there. So just like my son, don't just say, hey, my memory's terrible, and give up on it. Don't just say, hey, I can't build this habit of exercising or reading or whatever the habit is that you think is going to help improve your life. Go out there and actively figure out a solution for it. The last key to success I call arrogant confidence. Now, I specifically use the word arrogant because you're operating with a level of confidence that's just above you. It almost feels arrogant, right? There's something I read, I think Steve Jobs said, this entire world was built by ordinary people like you and me. Ordinary people like you and me, but they had the confidence to go out and actually get the thing done. They had confidence to say, I could build that bridge. I could build that skyscraper, right? They had the confidence to actually go out and do it. And that's the difference between a lot of people achieving the success in their life, achieving the results, getting the things that they want in this world, is just believing they can do it. And they call it this imposter syndrome now, right? Like, I've got imposter syndrome. I can't do it. All of us have imposter syndrome. We get this idea in our head and we start doing it. And every one of us in the beginning says, this don't feel right. Like, I don't feel like I should be the expert on this right now, right? You're holding a podcast show or a YouTube video. You get on there and go, am I the guy that should be doing this, right? I'm holding a podcast on success is. Billionaires out there, right, that are doing it. Should I be doing this, right? But you always got to take that first step, and you have to operate with that level of confidence that's just over it. And then over time, you start to become the expert in it. People start reaching out to you about things. But it started with that, I'm going to do it anyways, right? And maybe you even hear negativity from your environment. That's why I think it's important. If you want to be successful, you need to operate with that, what I call arrogant confidence. And that's just that level of confidence that's just above where you're comfortable, and just push through it. I've seen some really smart people not do anything because of the fear of what other people think, or are they going to be able to figure it out? And I've seen some dumb people do some amazing things just because they had such a high level of confidence. So once again, my 3 keys to success are: first, having a very clearly defined plan. Second, build those healthy habits, and sometimes that'll support the plan, right? So if like your 15-year goal is that you don't want to be on medication and you want to be living a healthy life and stuff, then one of those habits you really need to build in is the exercise component, right? If you want to be a doctor, but you hate reading, well, one of the habits you need to start getting involved with is reading, right? To get to that habit. So it helps support it, right? And then the whole driving force behind these habits and all of that and setting the goals is really that arrogant confidence that ends up pushing you to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life. So those are my 3 keys to success, and I hope you guys enjoyed them.
Going totally off of that, I think especially the last 2 are the big ones for me that I've kind of struggled with, building a YouTube channel and everything. I am such an introvert. I am the biggest introvert at all, that, the idea of talking to a bunch of people or something like that was something as a daunting task, and I think that, like you're talking about working out, especially as you get older, I think that I kind of did especially the self-sabotage and have for a while of going to the gym. I've used to whenever I played college football and I was an athlete, but now if I got away from that, I'm like, I'm going back to the gym. I'm like, okay. And then you wake up the next morning and you're sore and you're like, but I'm used to that. And so I'll go again. And then the next morning, why am I still sore? Maybe I need a day off. And then suddenly, but I'll go back tomorrow. And then suddenly, and then you don't do it. You'll find reasons why. Going off of your last one, as far as confidence has always been a big thing for me, thing that I've lacked. And I've kind of, off camera, kind of talked about the idea of I always wanted to do it, but I was always afraid and stuff like that. That was part of it. I didn't have confidence in myself to do it because I didn't really think that, I haven't succeeded so far. What's going to be any different now? And that type of thinking is exactly why I haven't succeeded so far.
Yeah.
With that, and I kind of got today where I said today I've been looking for a vehicle because mine died, and you kind of scrape by and my son took me to look at vehicles and look at a truck, and it's like, oh, well, I caught myself saying, well, if my business succeeds, I'll be able to get that truck someday. And then I'm like, wait a minute, when my business succeeds and I get profitable, I'll be able to buy that. To where that's definitely, everybody ends up going through that, if you haven't, just like you said, then you're just fooling yourself at that point. Because if you don't have that self-belief, it's something that, then read a book and learn about it so that you gain that own self-belief, and that'll help you get more successful.
Yeah, if you talk to public speakers that have been doing it for years, get in front of these huge audiences and speak in front of a ton of people, and you ask them, do you still get nervous? They say yes, they do. You got the people, introverts, right, that get on and they talk to all these people, and they look amazing. They're engaging the crowd and all this stuff. And you're like, you still get nervous? And they're like, absolutely. But they change that energy. They channel it. They focus it, right? And they make it work for them. And I'd say the same thing you can do with this arrogant confidence is you just shift the focus on it and make it into a game and make it something that energizes you. Because the people are still afraid when they get up there in front of these large audiences and speak in front of them. They're just doing something different with that energy. They're getting a high off of it, like a drug. And when they walk away, they feel great about it because they use that. And that's why a lot of those people still continue to do these big public speaking engagements, similar to why skydivers continue to skydive, right? They get that jolt, they makes them feel alive, and they love it. And when you do things that are outside of your comfort zone, that you're taking that risk, you're pushing yourself a little bit further, you're dreaming bigger than you maybe think you should be dreaming because you're a broke, poor kid, one of 7, and a single mother with no education, right? But when you dream bigger, you achieve amazing things. I can promise you that.
And that's what, I've really started going into this. It's like, I'm such an introvert and I stammer. You'll see that I stammer so much. And I think that that's kind of like the ADD thing of there's so much things that go through my mind that my mouth doesn't say it fast enough, or it doesn't put it out there, And the channel hasn't grown as fast as I want. Well, but the thing of it is like, I love these conversations we have. I've gone like where I end up going 3 weeks with scheduling conflicts and everything else that I don't put one out. And then as soon as I have my next interview, I'm like, I love these conversations. It doesn't matter if everybody wants to do it. I love these conversations, and I think that it's valuable information to everybody else. And everybody else is going to see the value in this at one point, and things will take off.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And these things, they all have to start somewhere, and they build off of it. Never stop learning, never stop challenging yourself, never stop stretching yourself, right? The brain has, in my mind, unlimited capacity. And if you continue to stretch it, I'm taking Duolingo, right, for French. Why? I don't know, just to continue to stretch my brain, right? My speaking on these podcasts, I'm a natural. No, definitely not. I do Toastmasters every Monday at 7 p.m. I get on a Zoom call and it gives me a chance to sharpen my sword a little bit, right? Or sharpen my saw a little bit. And I get better and better at it. A lot of these people you see that do these different things, it just doesn't come natural. They're not naturally good at these things. They're doing these little habits behind the scenes that are developing those tools and making them better and better and better and better, and they're constantly challenging themselves. So I would encourage you all listening to do the same.
And it's great because like I've tried to get some of the YouTube people on YouTube channels that have a big growing. I'm like, I consider that a business too, and I've kind of sent emails and stuff like that trying to ask for some of them to come on. And one of the things I said is like, I'm just starting. You'll look, and I don't have the perfect camera. I'm not the best speaker, but I bet if you look at your first videos that you put out,
absolutely,
you'd laugh at yourself too. And I'm really looking forward to the time that I'm able to reach the level that they are of everything going. Everything's not going to go smoothly, but at least you're getting there, and you can look back and see the growth that you did from that time. So,
yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm looking forward to.
Have you seen what the original Apple computer looked like? I mean, it was like a box with some wires sticking out of it, right? It looked like somebody made it in their garage, right? That's exactly what it looked like, you know? Everyone's got to start somewhere. And don't hold back from getting started just because you're waiting for this polished, finished project. If there's another piece of advice that you'd take, it's just get started. Just do it. Don't be afraid to start charging people for something because you don't think it's done yet. Or putting value on what you're offering because you think you could be better at it. Yeah, you could always be better, right? My wife looks at her first book and says, oh my God, I can't believe the writing style that I did on that and stuff like that. But you wouldn't be where you're at today if you didn't start with that, right? You wouldn't.
Exactly.
And so taking that step forward is, you're absolutely right. That's the most important thing, is just moving forward. Yeah.
Great. I love this information, and I love these deep dives. I've really started getting into these. Like I said, that's why it's kind of hard for me to describe to you guys what I'm kind of looking for, just because I kind of just started on those. And this is exactly the type of information that I kind of like. You know, you all like the top 3 things and everything. So this is really a great thing to do that. So again, thank you for the extra time with this. And I think it's invaluable information for people. And the idea of, I always think of Steve Harvey. If you've ever listened to some of his books, is you walk to the edge, but you're not going to get there unless you take the leap. So with that, that's the big part, is you got to have that start. And whether God's behind you or what, you don't need God to kick you off that ledge. Have the strong belief in yourself that he'll catch you at the bottom, I guess you could say. So with that, I value your time and everything else, and thank you for your time. Again, I'll put your contact information on this one, and look forward to talking to you again sometime. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.